Hello and welcome back to the BNI Southeast Tennessee podcast. My name is Michael Crosa with Chattanooga Podcast Studios, and I'm here with Elaine Zambos.
Hello, Michael.
Hello, Director of BNI Southeast Tennessee. And we're recording in Wavelength Space in beautiful downtown Chattanooga. So we have been so far doing a series about the leadership roles within the BNI chapter. So this is 4 for 4 on our membership committee. Specifically, we've already done quality assurance, member engagement, and community building specialist. And today we're talking about the member engagement. But first.
No, we're talking about member relations specialist.
Member relations specialist. This podcast is produced by Chattanooga Podcast Studios, helping businesses and organizations make a deeper connection with their audience through the art of podcasting. An ideal referral for me would be a professional organization with a state or national presence. You can get in touch with me, Michael Crosa, by going to chatpod.com. That's chat with 2 T's, like Chattanooga, which is linked in the show notes below. Okay, so Elaine, tell me about the member relations specialist.
So the member relations specialist is the complaint department.
Okay.
That's it. Like, that's what they do, is they handle all of the complaints. And when I say all of the complaints, realistically, of our 26 chapters in Southeast Tennessee, we might have the member relations specialist in 2 chapters have a complaint or have a problem, right?
Yeah.
I mean, anytime you get that many entrepreneurs together, there's going to be issues,
There's egos. There's
definitely egos. But a lot of times with this role, it can be handled very quickly with just open and honest communication.
Yeah.
Because most of the time, it is a misunderstanding or a miscommunication or unmet expectations, right?
Yeah.
Because if unmet expectations lead to disappointment.
Right.
So if we handle those expectations on the front end with the quality assurance person, and they do a good job, typically the member relations specialist doesn't have a job.
Right.
Right? So it kind of works itself out. But let's say we do. What are some of those things that happen that would cause somebody to go to the member relations specialist? And we see it time to time. A lot of times it's because somebody misunderstands or steps over their boundaries with their classification. Like they're trying to sell something that maybe they can do, but that's not their seat in the chapter. Because realistically, it's hard for anybody to be just solely one thing within their chapter, right? Like we all can do multiple things, but within your chapter, this is what you represent.
Right.
So that might be a problem if people step over those bounds. A lot of times the member relations specialist can be a proactive role as well. And let's say that you have a visitor come to the chapter and this is somebody that you don't particularly want in your chapter. You can let the member relations specialist know that on the front end and save a lot of trouble and embarrassment on somebody's part, right?
Yeah.
Right? Because you want to take care of that prior to that. But let's say that something ugly does happen.
Okay.
And we've had it in chapters before, but we had a situation where, this has been several years ago, that a member called me and said, is it normal that people ask for a kickback when I give them a referral? Or they give me a referral? And I didn't understand. Well, evidently in this particular situation, anytime that this person gave a referral to somebody, they expected a percentage of the thank you for closed business to be paid for that referral. Well, that's not right.
That's
right?
not giver's gain.
That is not. That is not giver's gain.
Giver's take.
Giver's take, right? And it goes against our code of ethics. And so in that situation, we had that person put it in writing. So there's a process, and the process is on page 58 of your chapter manual, okay? So it needs to go, all complaints need to go in writing. And the reason it goes in writing is I always look at it as if I'm standing in front of a judge. The judge is going to ask for the evidence. And if there's just no evidence, it's a he said, she said. Right? And so now we got to put it in writing. This is what happened. And so once that happens, then the membership, the member relations specialist lets the vice president and the chapter coach or the executive director, one of the directors, let the director know what's happened, that there's been a complaint filed before doing anything else. Once that is in writing and it's been filed, then the membership committee, the people on the membership committee have an interview with the people involved. Not together, and I don't show you what's been written about you.
Yeah.
Right? Because then only thing that's going to happen there is they're going to have that opportunity to, they're going to deny and defend everything in there, right?
Yeah.
They're going to justify and defend. And so you want to make sure that you have those interviews. Then once that takes place, then you come back and you discuss it with the vice president. Now, the vice president oversees the membership committee. The vice president is not on the membership committee.
Ooh, important distinction.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just like in our company, our vice president may oversee the HR department, but the vice president doesn't work in the HR department. The vice president doesn't have a role in the HR department, right?
Okay.
And so we got to keep that in mind. So the vice president is brought in because the vice president oversees the membership committee, but they're not on the membership committee. So they are, just there. And so then the membership committee discuss it, and then they decide on the outcomes. Now, if two people say, hey, this guy's got to go, and two people say, no, they got to stay, then the vice president does have say-so.
Like a tiebreaker.
Like a tiebreaker.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, that makes sense.
So once we do the interview, we're determining, has there been a violation of the code of ethics? If the answer is yes, then we need to decide, what's the resolution here? Is this something that we put them on probation and say, hey, we got to do these things? Or do we open up their category?
Yeah.
And so it can be really a sticky situation, right? And again, we don't try to coach people out. We want to coach them up. Is this a coaching opportunity? Because it was just a miscommunication or a misunderstanding, or was it just a blatant, problem?
Yeah.
Right. Once all of those things happen, it's been in writing. Here's the other piece. It's based on firsthand information.
Okay.
It cannot be, well, so-and-so told me this happened, so I'm filing a complaint.
Yeah.
And it cannot be, it has to be within your chapter.
Okay.
Right? So it can't be, hey, I've got a complaint against a person over here. It's in your chapter. Right?
Gotcha.
So it's firsthand, and it's from the member of the chapter. Now, you might have firsthand information about somebody in another chapter that did you wrong. You can file a complaint against them in that chapter, yes. But it has to be BNI members. It cannot be somebody outside of BNI.
Right.
And which is interesting. Like once in a while, maybe once a year, I'll have some, Jane Doe community leader call me up and say, hey, I did business with so-and-so and that didn't go well. I want you to do something about it. She's not a member of BNI.
Right.
Yeah. So exactly. Yeah. But anyway, make sure it's in writing. It's on firsthand information. You get in touch with the director. Because here's the thing. I'm going to find out anyway. So get me in on the beginning.
Yeah.
And then make sure that the membership committee, number one, they're fully trained and they are involved in the situation. Like they're going to do the interviews. Now, what if the complaint is against the vice president?
Ooh.
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
So at that point, we have to remove that vice president from that role.
Yeah.
Right? And the same way, if it's a complaint against somebody in the membership committee, they have to be out of the role. Like they cannot be involved in the process. Right? Because that's kind of a sticky situation. And then once the complaint's been filed, both parties have been interviewed, the membership committee reconvenes to talk about those interviews, includes the vice president and the director in that, then we come up with the resolution. Are we going to coach them up, help them out, or are we going to open up the classification? In any of those situations, whatever the outcome, then we send what we call an accountability letter. And that letter will either say, there's been a violation of the code of ethics. Maybe there's been a policy violation. Maybe it's because of lack of participation in the chapter, whatever.
Right.
But we send them a letter. It's not a phone call.
Okay.
It's a letter.
In writing?
In writing.
Yeah.
Because if we were to call them up and say, Michael, based on what you have done to Susie, we're going to open up your classification. Nothing good comes out of that conversation because you're going to go into justify and defend mode and tell me all the reasons why I'm wrong and you're right. And even the decision's been made.
Right.
We're not going to change the decision. So you want to send the accountability letter. And as a piece of advice, I recommend that all chapters get a chapter name membership committee at gmail.com email address so that it's not coming from you personally or the vice president personally. It's because it's not anything against their company, right? This is
right. It's not
right.
That.
You don't
it's
want it to be
chapter.
personal that way.
Yeah, got
so
it. That's
the member relations specialist. And again, it's not. It is. It's the complaint department. But if we do a good job on the front end with our quality assurance specialist, so everyone understands the role, they understand the expectations. This guy didn't have much at all to do.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, the idea of putting things in writing, sometimes there's this hesitance of like, oh, well, it wasn't that bad, or like, oh, well, I don't want to, I don't know if it really, and just from personal observations, like that actually often makes a thing worse because you don't give the opportunity for resolution. Right. You don't give that to the chapter, you don't give it to that other person, right?
No, and so nobody sees it except for this one particular person in your chapter.
So a complaint, right, or a written complaint doesn't need to be like some icky thing. Like this can be helpful to everyone.
Well, we're not going to post it on the chapter placemat. No.
Right. Yeah.
No.
Right. Exactly.
Right. Because again, at the end of the day, it's all about ensuring people's dignity.
Yeah.
And showing them respect.
Yeah.
Because it could be just a plain misunderstanding.
Totally. And often is.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, cool.
So we have covered the membership committee.
We sure did. That's the membership committee. So if you have missed the previous episodes, be sure to go back and start through our series. And we are going to be talking about other leadership roles in the future. We've got president, vice president, mentor coordinator, and education coordinator.
And secretary treasurer.
How could I forget?
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks so much for listening to the BNI Southeast Tennessee podcast. Hope that you've enjoyed it and that you'll tell your chapter, and be sure to log the time as CEUs. We are recording here at Wavelength Studio in beautiful downtown Chattanooga. Our set was made by Mad Honey Rentals. And Elaine, I'm a new dad.
Yes.
And I hear you've got a dad joke for me.
I do. What do you call a horse that has great balance?
I don't know.
Stable.
Thanks so much for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next week.